Welcome back to Art Explored, everyone, the show where we like to dig into those famous works of art and kind of try to unpack them, figure out what made them so great, so iconic, and why people are still talking about them, sometimes even centuries later.
It's like we're doing a bit of art history detective work.
Exactly. Today we're putting on our detective hats to investigate the world of René Magritte. He's a Belgian surrealist, and man, this guy's work, it's like a visual puzzle. Always making you question what you're looking at.
Oh, yeah, he's the one with the bowler hats and the floating men, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that famous pipe that's like, this is not a pipe. But it totally is, right?
Right.
Like, come on, Magritte, what's the deal with that?
Well, that's kind of his whole thing. Messing with our heads, making us think about how we see the world. Like, what is reality anyway?
Deep stuff. So, to unravel this mystery, I think we got to rewind a bit, go back to the beginning. Figure out what shaped this guy's unique perspective on the world. What was his childhood like? Where'd he come from? What got into art in the first place?
Well, Magritte was born in Belgium in 1898, and his early life was, well, had its ups and downs. His family struggled financially, so money was a constant worry. And then, when he was only 13 years old, his mother tragically died by suicide. She was found drowned, her face covered by her dress.
Wow, that's heavy. I mean, I can only imagine the impact that kind of loss would have on a young kid.
Yeah, and it definitely left a mark on Magritte. You can see it in his art. The themes of concealment and hidden meanings, the fascination with faces being covered or obscured, it all ties back to that early trauma. But even amidst all that darkness, he found solace in art. He was always drawing and painting as a kid, kind of escaping into his own world.
So art was like his refuge, his way of coping with the tough stuff.
Yeah, I think you could say that. And it was more than just a hobby. He was serious about it. He ended up going to the Académie Royale des Beaux-Arts in Brussels for formal training.
Okay, so he's got the talent, he's got the drive, he's getting the education. But something tells me those stuffy art school classes weren't exactly his cup of tea.
You got that right. He was a bit of a rebel. He found the traditional academic style too restrictive. And that's when he really started to gravitate towards something new, something that was just beginning to emerge in the art world. Surrealism.
Surrealism. Okay, now we're talking. But for those of us who aren't art historians, can you break down what that actually means? What makes a painting surreal?
Sure. Surrealism, it's all about tapping into the subconscious mind, exploring the world of dreams, and kind of breaking free from the constraints of logic and reason.
So like melting clocks and lobster phones.
Exactly. It's about embracing the absurd, the unexpected. And for Magritte, it was a perfect fit. It gave him the freedom to express his unique vision, to play with those themes of concealment and mystery that were so central to his experience. But to really understand his journey into surrealism, we got to talk about a guy named Giorgio de Chirico.
Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. Who's this de Chirico guy, and why is he so important in Magritte's story?
Well, de Chirico was an Italian painter who is considered one of the pioneers of metaphysical art. And this style had a profound influence on Magritte. De Chirico's paintings, they were filled with dreamlike imagery, bizarre juxtapositions, and this sense of unease that really resonated with Magritte's own sensibilities.
Hold up, metaphysical art. Sounds kind of deep. What exactly does that mean?
It's a bit tricky to explain, but basically, it's art that tries to capture the essence of things beyond the physical world. It's about exploring the hidden meanings and relationships between objects and ideas. Like there's this one famous de Chirico painting called The Song of Love, and it's got all these seemingly random objects together. A giant rubber glove, a classical sculpture head, and a green ball. And they're all just kind of hanging out in this empty piazza, and it creates this really weird, unsettling atmosphere, like something's not quite right.
I can see how that would appeal to Magritte. It's like a visual representation of the strangeness he was already exploring in his own work. So how did this newfound love for de Chirico's work change Magritte's artistic direction? Did he just jump right into painting giant rubber gloves and calling it a day?
Not quite. It was a gradual evolution. Remember, we're talking about the early 20th century here. Surrealism was still a pretty radical idea, and the art world wasn't exactly embracing it with open arms.
The classic tale of the misunderstood artist, ahead of his time. So what did Magritte do to survive while he was developing his unique style? Did he, starve in a garret somewhere, painting by candlelight?
Well, maybe not quite that dramatic. But to make ends meet, he actually took on commercial art jobs. He designed posters, advertisements, that kind of thing.
So he was like a graphic designer before graphic design was even a thing. That's kind of cool. But I'm guessing those commercial gigs weren't just about paying the bills. Did they actually influence his artistic development in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Good advertising is all about grabbing your attention, conveying a message quickly, and using visuals in a way that sticks in your mind. And those skills, they definitely came in handy when he was creating his surrealist masterpieces.
So those years spent designing ads were like a secret training ground for bending reality on canvas. I love that. But I'm still curious about that first official surrealist work. What was the painting that kind of launched his career in this new direction?
Well, that would be The Lost Jockey, which he painted in 1926.
The Lost Jockey. Okay, now that title alone sounds pretty surreal. What's going on in that painting? Are there any, like, hidden meanings we should be looking for?
Well, that's the beauty of Magritte's work. He doesn't give us all the answers. He wants us to engage with the imagery to come up with our own interpretations. But to give you a little context, The Lost Jockey features a horse and rider racing through a dark, mysterious forest. The jockey's face is hidden, and the whole scene has this dreamlike, unsettling quality that really captures the essence of early surrealism.
Okay, I can picture it now. It's dark, it's mysterious, there's a sense of movement and energy, but also this undercurrent of, like, what's really going on here?
Exactly, and that's just the beginning. From there, Magritte's career takes off, and he starts to really explore the possibilities of surrealism.
But as we all know, Paris was like the epicenter of the surrealist movement back then. So did Magritte make the pilgrimage to the City of Lights to connect with the other big names in surrealism?
He did. In 1927, he packed his bags and headed to Paris, eager to immerse himself in the heart of the movement. And that's where he met André Breton, the leader of the Surrealists.
Okay, now things are getting interesting. I've heard of Breton. He was like the godfather of surrealism, right? The guy who kind of set the rules and laid down the law.
Yeah, pretty much. Breton was a charismatic figure, a poet and writer, and he had a very specific vision for surrealism. He was heavily influenced by Freudian psychoanalysis, and he believed that art should tap into the subconscious mind, unleashing those raw, primal urges and emotions.
So it was all about letting go of inhibitions, embracing chaos, and just seeing what emerges from the depths of the mind.
Exactly. And for many artists, this approach was liberating. It allowed them to break free from the constraints of tradition and explore new forms of expression. But for Magritte, it wasn't quite that simple.
Oh, I sense a but coming. Did Magritte have a different take on surrealism?
He did. While he shared the Surrealists' desire to challenge artistic norms and explore the hidden realms of the mind, his approach was much more deliberate, more calculated.
So he wasn't just splattering paint on a canvas and hoping for the best.
No, not at all. Magritte was a meticulous planner. He carefully crafted his images, using everyday objects in unexpected ways to create a sense of disorientation and make us question our assumptions about the world.
So it was like he was setting a trap for our minds, luring us in with these familiar images, and then, bam, hit us with the unexpected.
Yeah, something like that. He wanted us to see the strangeness that lurks beneath the surface of the ordinary. And he did it with such precision, such control. It's what sets him apart from many other surrealists.
Okay, so we've got a rebellious artist, a master of visual trickery, and a guy who wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. This is getting good. But before we dive into the specific masterpieces that made him a legend, I'm curious about one more thing. This clash with Breton. You mentioned they had some personal and political differences. What was that all about?
Well, Breton was a devout Marxist, deeply involved in leftist politics. Magritte, on the other hand, was more of an independent thinker. He didn't want to be confined by any ideology, whether it was artistic or political, and this led to some tension between them, both personally and professionally.
Oh, artistic and political drama.
Oh,
I'm hooked. So we've got a rebellious artist who's also a bit of a political maverick. Tell me more. What was it about Magritte's style that really set him apart from the rest of the surrealist crowd? How did he take these unconventional ideas and make them his own?
You know, it's funny because even though Magritte was this rebel, bucking the system, his work, it's like the opposite of chaotic. It's all about control. Every detail, every object, it's carefully placed to make us stop and think, like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, you're right. It's not like those abstract expressionist paintings where it's all about feeling and emotion. Magritte's work, it's like a puzzle. You got to use your brain to figure it out.
Exactly. He wanted to make us think, not just feel. And one of the ways he did that was by taking these everyday objects, things we see all the time, and put them in these really weird, unexpected situations.
Like that painting with the train coming out of the fireplace.
Time transfixed, yeah. It's so simple, yet so bizarre.
It's like he's saying, hey, What if the world didn't follow the rules? What if anything was possible?
Right. And that idea that anything is possible, that's really at the heart of surrealism. But Magritte, he took it a step further. He wasn't just interested in creating these dreamlike images. He wanted to use them to explore deeper questions about reality, perception, and the nature of truth.
And those faceless figures he's so famous for, those play into that too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those faceless figures, they represent this idea of anonymity, of losing our individuality in the modern world.
It's kind of creepy, but also kind of makes you think, you know?
Oh.
Like, are we all just interchangeable parts in this big machine?
That's exactly the kind of question Magritte wanted us to ask. And he did it with symbols, too.
Oh yeah, he loved his symbols. Bowler hats, apples, clouds, they all pop up again and again in his work. It's like he had his own secret code he was trying to communicate.
And one of his most famous symbols, of course, is that pipe.
The treachery of images. Okay, let's talk about that one because it's always messed with my head.
It's a classic, a perfect example of how Magritte used art to challenge our assumptions about language and representation.
I mean, it's clearly a pipe, but
Yeah.
the caption says, "This is not a pipe." What's the deal with that? Is he just messing with us?
Well, yeah, kind of. But he's also making a really profound point about the relationship between images and reality. The painting, it's not a pipe. It's an image of a pipe. The word pipe, it's not a pipe. It's a symbol that represents a pipe.
So he's saying that a picture of a thing is not the same as the actual thing.
Exactly. And that's a really important idea to grasp, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with images all the time. We have to be careful not to confuse the representation with the reality.
It's like he's saying, don't believe everything you see, which is kind of ironic coming from a painter, right?
Well, that's Magritte for you. Always challenging our expectations, making us think outside the box. And he did that with his use of scale and perspective, too.
Oh, yeah, like that painting with the giant comb and shaving brush in the bedroom. Personal values, right? It's so
Right.
strange.
I love that one. It's like he's saying, hey, what if the things we take for granted, the mundane objects of everyday life, what if they were suddenly huge? How would that change our perception of them?
It's like he's turning the world upside down, making the ordinary extraordinary.
And that's what makes his work so compelling. He forces us to see the world through fresh eyes, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of existence.
Okay, I gotta ask. When Magritte was creating these mind-bending masterpieces, was he like living this glamorous life in Paris,
Yeah.
hanging out with other artists and intellectuals?
Well, not exactly. Remember, he had that falling out with Breton, so he actually ended up back in Brussels.
Oh, yeah, right, the political drama.
Yeah.
So was he still struggling financially, or had he started to make a name for himself by then?
Money was still tight. He actually had to go back to doing some commercial work to make ends meet.
Wow, so even after painting these incredible, groundbreaking paintings, he was still hustling to pay the rent.
It just goes to show, even for the most brilliant artists, success doesn't always come easy. But, even though he was facing these challenges, Magritte never gave up. He kept painting, kept experimenting, kept pushing the boundaries of art.
What a champ. So what happened next? Did he finally get the recognition he deserved, or did he have to wait even longer for his big break?
Well, unfortunately, things got even tougher for Magritte and pretty much everyone else in Europe with the outbreak of World War II.
Oh man, the war, that must have thrown a wrench in everything. I mean, how do you create art when the world around you is falling apart?
It's hard to imagine, right? But, artists, they find a way. And Magritte, he actually went through a really interesting phase during the war years.
Really? What did he paint? Like war scenes? Battlefields?
Nope, not at all. He actually started painting in a completely different style. He called it his Renoir period.
Renoir.
Yeah.
Like the French Impressionist painter. That's a pretty big shift from those dark, enigmatic paintings we've been talking about.
It was a huge shift. He started using brighter colors, looser brushstrokes, and his paintings became more cheerful, more optimistic.
I wonder why he did that. Was it like a way to escape the darkness of the war? To create a sense of hope and beauty amidst all the chaos?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think there's definitely something to that. In times of crisis, we often turn to art for comfort, for inspiration, for a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's still beauty to be found.
Makes sense. So did he just ditch surrealism altogether and become a full-time impressionist?
He did for a while, but after the war, he gradually returned to his roots, back to those surreal, thought-provoking images that made him famous.
I guess you can take the artist out of surrealism, but you can't take the surrealism out of the artist.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Did the post-war world finally embrace Magritte's unique vision?
It did. The 1950s and 60s were a time of great change in the art world, and Magritte's work, which had once been considered too radical, suddenly started to resonate with a new generation of artists and critics.
So he was finally getting the recognition he deserved. Was it like an overnight success story, or was it a more gradual process?
It was a bit of both. He started having major exhibitions in Europe and the US, and his paintings were being acquired by important collectors. It was like the art world finally caught up with what Magritte had been doing all along.
That's awesome. So he went from struggling artist to art world superstar.
Pretty much. And it wasn't just the art world that embraced him. His imagery started to appear everywhere, in pop culture, advertising, even music.
Like those bowler-hatted men, those clouds, those green apples, they became iconic.
Exactly. And it's a testament to the power of his art, its ability to transcend boundaries and connect with people on a visceral level. But, to really understand Magritte's legacy, we need to delve a little deeper into his personal life, to understand the man behind the bowler hats and floating apples.
Okay, I'm ready to go deeper. Let's explore the personal side of Magritte.
Mm.
What was he like as a person? How did his relationships and experiences shape his art?
We've been talking a lot about Magritte's mind-bending images, but there's this other side to his work, this deep emotional undercurrent that I think we need to explore.
Yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of that stems from his personal life. Those early experiences with loss and love that really shaped his perspective on the world.
Exactly. I mean, we can't talk about Magritte without talking about the impact of his mother's suicide. That event, it left an indelible mark on him, and you can see it reflected in so many of his paintings.
It's like those veiled figures, the obscured faces, those empty suits, they all hint at this sense of absence, of something hidden beneath the surface.
It's like he's constantly reminding us that there are things we can't see, secrets lurking just beyond our grasp. And that theme of concealment, it extends beyond the literal. It's there in the way he plays with language, with the relationship between words and images.
Yeah, like he's saying that even the way we communicate, the way we try to make sense of the world, is inherently flawed, prone to misunderstandings and misinterpretations.
Right. It's like he's peeling back the layers of reality, showing us that there's always more than meets the eye. And speaking of peeling back layers, we have to talk about Georgette.
Ah, Georgette. His wife and muse. She seems to play a really important role in his life and his art.
She was his constant companion, his confidant, and his inspiration. They met when they were just teenagers, and their love story, it's like something out of a movie.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Well, they met by chance at a fair in 1913. René was instantly smitten with Georgette's beauty and charm, and they fell deeply in love. But their romance was interrupted by World War I.
Oh, of course. The war. I imagine that must have been a really difficult time for them.
It was. René was drafted into the Belgian army, and they were forced to spend long periods apart. But their love endured. And after the war, they reunited and got married in 1922.
Oh, that's so sweet. So how did Georgette influence his art? Was she just a
Georgette became his muse, his creative partner. She appears in many of his paintings, often as this serene and enigmatic figure, embodying the mystery and allure that he was so drawn to.
I can definitely see that in his work. She's always depicted with this kind of quiet grace, this air of mystery.
Yeah, she became a symbol within his own visual language, representing this feminine ideal, this unattainable beauty. But she was also his rock, his grounding force. Magritte had his struggles, both financially and emotionally. And Georgette, she was always there for him, providing unwavering support and encouragement.
It's like she was his anchor, helping him navigate the choppy waters of the art world and life in general.
Absolutely. She was his muse, his confidant, his partner in crime. She was instrumental in his success.
That's such a beautiful testament to the power of love and partnership. But, even with Georgette by his side, Magritte's journey wasn't always easy. We talked about his financial struggles, his artistic clashes with the Surrealist establishment. How did he deal with all those challenges? What kept him going?
I think it was his unwavering belief in his own vision. He never compromised his art, never tried to fit in or please the critics. He just kept creating those mind-bending images, those visual puzzles that challenged our perceptions and made us question everything we thought we knew about the world.
And eventually, the world caught up with him. He became one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. And his legacy, it continues to inspire and challenge us today.
Absolutely. His impact on art, on pop culture, on the way we see the world, it's undeniable. When you see an image of a bowler hat or a green apple, you immediately think of Magritte.
It's true. He created this whole visual language that's
Yeah.
become part of our collective consciousness.
And that's pretty amazing to think that this one artist from a small town in Belgium was able to change the way we see the world.
Yeah, he really made us question everything, like what is real? What is an image? What is a pipe?
He made us think, he made us laugh, and he made us look at the world with fresh eyes.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. René Magritte, the master of illusion, the enigmatic surrealist, the artist who made us question everything.
And hopefully inspired us to see the magic and the mystery in the everyday.
Thanks for joining me on this surreal journey. And to all our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those bowler hats handy.